Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm Travis.
Alliance Assemble.
Assemble.
Volume 224, and we are now in the era of a post-Deadpool and Wolverine world. And yes, as you hear, Brent is not able to join us tonight. He's had some off. He's off actually trying to get into finding where in what actual multiverse can he find Deadpool and Wolverine in, because he's got questions, I've got questions, and we need those answers. So Brent is on assignment right now to get those answers.
Brent's gotten a few answers from a couple different actors playing comic book characters over the years, so I wouldn't rule this out.
Yeah. Yep, including some his own Marvel Alliance exclusives from Mr. John Bernthal. So hopefully he'll be back next week at that point. But we wish him well in his quest. But Travis Hines has joined us as the illustrious host of the Animation Nation and co-host of DC Alliance. So how are you doing this week?
I'm doing well, Chris. Work was a little blah, but as I was telling you before we started, and I talked about it in GUA chat, I got a chance to watch the entire 10 episodes of Batman Caped Crusaders today. So it was a very enjoyable experience. Great day. Not as productive of a day as I would like to be, but I implore anybody, if you're a fan of Batman the Animated Series, check this show out. It's a love letter to Batman.
Yes, definitely looking forward to seeing that amazing stuff this weekend. So we are going to be talking about, I know we did our live kind of reactions to the SDCC panel with the Geekverse guys. We really appreciate them inviting us on. I know the audio that released we mainly kind of focused on the big event of it, and we only had a little bit of discussion on everything else, but we're going to use this episode to kind of do our full breakdown of the panel, and we are not alone on this. We have a guest that was actually there on the ground. He's going to talk to us about his experiences, but we're going to bring him in just a little bit because we have the lovely network plugs that we have to do before that. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network with 7 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers. Our dollar tiers are tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job? And then we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon-exclusive shows. We've got 2 shows on there on the Marvel Alliance side. We've got We Can Watch This All Day, the Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga Rewatch, 24 episodes covering the entirety of our feelings on each one of the Infinity Saga movies. And then we have our current show, Tales from the House of X, where we will be watching our favorite movies from the Fox era of X-Men. We've got 4 episodes up there right now: Deadpool, Deadpool 2, The Wolverine, and Logan. Brent and I will be recording our first dive into the original X-Men movie this month. It is now officially, at the time of recording, August 1st, so this month we'll be recording, and it'll drop at the end of the month. DC Alliance, you all have DC films through the years. What is your most recent episode?
Our most recent episode was Superman Returns, Chris, which was a very fun discussion. A lot of the CGI and special effects really still hold up quite well, but there was a lot to discuss. And this month is going to be a film I've never seen before called Stardust. So Joe has the list. I don't question it. I just go about finding the films once he tells me what we're watching next.
Yes, gotcha. And then we've got, speaking of Joe, he's got his Multiverse Minutes Disney Dives. He just released his most recent episode looking at the controversial Disney film that will be interesting to see if it ever comes out of the vault unless it is outside of copyright. That would be A Song of the South. So check that out. He releases those on the 1st and 15th of every month. We've got a lot of back content out there, so we want to thank our patrons. We can't do this without your support. And if you want to be a member of our Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/GUA Network so you can get all that lovely back content. And if you can't join us on Patreon, totally understand. If you want to take 30 to 90 seconds and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts, we greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. You earn points by every order, so you can get discounts on that. We've got a huge Marvel pre-order, final order cutoff that was just launched last week. We've got Black Panther by Reginald Hudlin omnibus for the first time ever in omnibus edition. Also, a big one for you Daredevil fans like me. Daredevil by Nascente and Romita Jr. First time ever. This has kind of been the big hole that is missing after the Frank Miller years and heading into the Kevin Smith, Bendis, that kind of era. This is kind of that missing hole, and this is a volume 1. So we want to make sure to get that so we can finally conclude that missing gap in the Daredevil saga as well. Anything else that stands out to me looking at these? Yes, Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 6. We're now in the 6th volume of the Amazing Spider-Man era, and as we joked with Brent last week, Ultimate Fantastic Four Omnibus Volume 1 is actually coming out at that point. So, but not to counter that with X-Men Fatal Attractions Omnibus. What an illustrious run that was. So, amazing covers. All these covers are amazing.
I'm getting taken in by every one of them.
But use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. Use it an unlimited amount of times, and it lets them know you're a listener, and we want to thank them for being our official sponsor. All right, so I don't think we do have one programming note. We want to thank our network brethren for this Geekverse 9th anniversary stream. It is 9 years Geekverse premiered, and they are celebrating their 9 years with their stream starting. It's not a 24-hour stream; it's a 9-hour stream starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're on another coast, do the math at that point. But 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday. Going to the Geekverse YouTube channel. The trivia match, the infamous trivia match, will start at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be participating in that. A lot of different events. I think the maybe dubbed the final match between Taylor and Travis and
Vendettas
I think Kirkland.
Vendettas like this never die.
Yes, events like that never die at that point. But yeah, check that out. We want to congratulate them on 9 great years, because without Geekverse, Geek Ultimate Alliance really doesn't exist. So we really appreciate it. Congratulations, everyone over there at Geekverse, and I look forward to participating in the trivia. All right, so SDCC, the Hall H panel. Usually, we would break down this, but we did have a fellow mutual reach out to me, letting me know that he would be on the floor and would be happy to come on and talk about his on the floor experiences. So I said absolutely. So we're gonna bring him in right now. Everyone, say a big hello to Carrie. How you doing, Carrie?
Doing good, guys. Happy to be here.
Well, thank you for coming on, and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, maybe between San Jose and San Francisco, kind of Silicon Valley area. Been out in Colorado for the last few years, and like Chris, I'm also in the field of education. Although that might be changing for me in the near future, we'll see. There's a lot of TBD to be figured out there, but most of my career has been in education as a teacher in the classroom.
That is great, and hats off to you at that point. And when it's like you said, things always changing, things always moving at that point. But obviously, always wish everyone the best at that point. So, talk to us about like SDCC. So, to kind of a little bit about your history. I know we talked a little bit off air, but first question I have before we even get into the panel itself is how long you've been going. Some of your favorite kind of memories of Hall H.
2015 was the year I was first able to go. That was the year that me and my friend and my cousin were able to finally snag badges. I had tried a couple years prior and no luck, and everything you hear about how fast the badges for Comic-Con sell out, when the general sale happens. It all is true. It's sale, they sell out if not within an hour, shortly after an hour. So it was just a matter of, it's just a random selection process. And the fortunate thing is after you've been able to go, then your chances of getting a badge do increase if you're a returning member.
Okay.
Even if you only scored like 1 day from the initial sale, then you qualify for returning registration. And you also and there's other strategies and methods that we've learned over the years of making sure we get badges for every year. So yeah, minus the years where we're shut down for COVID, I've been going every year since 2015. So and I can tell you also this. When I first started hearing about Comic-Con was probably around 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. And that was when, phase one of the MCU was is on the upswing. We were post Iron Man 2. And all the fans were speculating, is this cinematic universe idea? Mike, he was one of my boys from one of the guys I was with at Comic-Con. That back then we were all wondering, how is this whole Avengers thing going to work? How is this whole shared cinematic universe going to work? Is people going to connect with Thor? People going to connect with Cap? Is Cap 2 outdated? Those kind of questions were all just looming, and we just didn't know. And 2010, I think, was the year they had the panels for Captain America: First Avenger, the first Thor movie, and then brought out the whole Avengers cast on stage long before they started filming. So that plus stuff related to DC. Not being able to be there for the Man of Steel panel made me go like, I can't miss this anymore. I have to be there for these kind of things. So I want to be in the room for this level of hype and excitement, and to be engaged with this material is really what drove me to and be able to see exclusive footage, see the cast on stage. Those have always been my biggest motivating factors. Plus, there's so many things to see and do at Comic-Con to make it a rich experience.
Yeah, I would say like Comic-Con's been one of those things, at least for me, that I've thought about it, but it's never been enough for me just because of I'm not I don't have an aversion to crowds or anything like that, but how much it's grown and gotten to a point where saying, I don't know if I even want to be in this kind of environment necessarily. And then when the strikes happened last year, that would have been the SDCC fee for me to go to, because I love seeing all the Hollywood and TV stuff, but like I am all, not saying you aren't, but the comic book creators and how it was such a unique show back to when it used to be the way it was, and how much everyone had said it was so unique. So last year would have been the year, but maybe one day I'll get out there and have the opportunity to go out there and maybe do my own boots on the ground for Geek Ultimate Alliance. That would be kind of fun.
Yeah, and I was there last year, and it did have a different. It was still, everyone was still happy and excited to be there and whatnot, but it did have a different vibe and feel without all the big Hollywood studios for movies and TV. But there was the focus was back on the comics, and look, Scott Snyder is my favorite comic book writer, so I had to be able to get books signed by him, meet with him, and that kind of stuff is always really fun. So. So I went to Wonder for a couple of years before I was able to start going to Comic-Con. So it definitely has that kind of smaller feel in that regard, but still feel like you're part of a big size convention where there's a lot of energy to be there with the other fans. So
did you know Marvel was going to do a big presentation before you decided to go back to SDCC this year, or were you already going regardless?
I knew I was going regardless. Okay. So that was always. I would have been really surprised if they decided to skip. One of the talk tracks that I'm sure you guys have speculated off and on or comment on here and there, anytime there's a D23 year, I feel like the pundits always want to say, well, this is the year Marvel will skip because it won't cost them money to go. But like Kevin Feige, I think, has made it pretty darn clear that he values the San Diego Comic-Con experience, even if there's a D23 year, and they're just going to find a way to do both. If they have material to share, like if they have footage to show, if they have cast to announce and bring on the stage and answer a couple of questions, and if they have announcements to make, like any casting announcements or things like that, if they have something to talk about, they're going to be there. But if it's a year where they're needed to put a pause button on things, or if it's in between, before like obviously in between Infinity War and Endgame, they skipped 2019. 2018 for obvious reasons. The times where they do skip always sort of seem to make sense when you look at the nature of the way things are releasing. So historically, they're both for Comic-Con and D23. So there really wasn't any question, especially since they weren't able to go for the reasons for the strikes last year, there was really no doubt in my mind that they would be showing up.
Nice. Well, good. Well, let us get into kind of like your experiences down there this year at that point. I know you said you wanted to kind of talk about there was a little difference, unique experiences this year between kind of, they surprised everyone. It wasn't just the standard Hall H panel before, but they decided to do a surprise presentation and do a Deadpool and Wolverine panel that basically turned into let's all watch the movie together with the stars of it at that point. But yeah, talk about your experiences before we get into the actual Hall H panel.
Sure. And for anyone who's listening who has always heard things about Comic-Con over the years, all the stories you hear about, people camping out, having to wait a whole day in line, or having to form groups in order to wait in line in order to get into Hall H, all that is absolutely 100% true and accurate. So that is very much a thing of people the Comic-Con security plants a next day line flag at some point in the marina that's on the kind of the backside of the convention center. And even as early as basically, I don't know, I forget what time they did it this year, but like 11 p.m. Thursday, since people wanting to go into Friday's events had already been moved up to where they need to be and given wristbands to make sure they were going to get priority to get inside. The Saturday Hall H people started lining up at that point. So the fans are very eager to make sure they're getting in line at a good point to get a good spot in line and to get wristbands that sort of tell you where you're going to be in the room more or less. The thing that Marvel did very differently this year, when the panel schedule was announced about 2 weeks before the con, there was this slot on Thursday night for Hall H that just said TBA. Like, just no clear indication of what the panel was for, who that was for, what studio, if any, was going to be there for it. And then around the time when one of the press releases where, not only did Marvel Studios officially confirm that they were going to be there on Saturday night is their usual time slot, which was no different this year. But then it was in more or less in that same breath, or shortly afterwards, that they announced that the Thursday TBA panel was going to be this Deadpool and Wolverine, I think they called it a celebration of life panel. And not only, but they were going to run it differently. The way that Comic-Con normally does it is if you get into the panel, Hall H, or any panels really, any panel rooms throughout the convention center, they don't clear the rooms in between panels. So if you get there, if you're there for the very first panel, you can choose to stay there the whole rest of the day. No one's going to care. Okay. You might, if you leave and come back, you might have trouble getting back in, depending on what it is. But you can stay the whole day inside there, basically. So the difference was for the Thursday night thing, they did clear the room before that Deadpool and Wolverine because they made it where you had to like go on a certain website of some kind and RSVP. And to try and fast forward to Thursday night itself, I mean, I wasn't in that line. I didn't manage to RSVP on the link in time for it, but I did manage to go see it at a movie theater with a friend of mine down in San Diego, which was fun. But the major thing I heard was that for as many things as Comic-Con does right, in terms of everyone who had RSVP'd, not everyone got inside, even though they knew the numbers of the Hall H holds 6,500 people. So they should have known exactly how many people are getting it in, but there were people who RSVP'd who didn't get in. And I think it's just because at some point they stopped scanning the RSVP notices, or I think a lot of people are probably took screenshots of their RSVP notice and shared it with their friends, so their friends who didn't actually try or didn't get it could now go in, and they just didn't do a very good job of monitoring that line. And I guess the organization of the line was just really, really off base compared to like how Comic-Con normally manages their lines and getting people in. So that was a bit of a different ordeal. Marvel has never had any kind of like RSVP system for any panel before, so that was definitely a unique thing for this year. I think it's because they screened the movie there inside with 6,500 fans. And the other thing that I missed out on, I wish I'd been around and outside for it, but they did put on around the time the Deadpool and Wolverine panel wrapped, they put on a really cool drone light show around somewhere in the sky around the convention center that showed not just Deadpool and Wolverine, but like other. I think they had the Fantastic Four logo, or it had Galactus, an outline of his head and things like that. So a really cool feature that they got to do to continue just to drive up more hype and excitement.
That's cool. Yeah, and it's interesting. Again, they probably learned a lot from this new experience they tried to do, and again, a cool experience that people weren't necessarily thought they would do with the movie coming out. But maybe again, they're I don't know if Fantastic Four, First Steps, and SDCC lineup as well as Deadpool and Wolverine lineup with the show next year, but it's around the same time, so we'll just have to see. But yeah, let's get into actual Hall H and kind of the breakdown discussions and hear what you saw at that point, and Travis and I will kind of jump in and kind of, since we were the outsiders looking and watching Twitter feeds and other people talk about it. So I know they first up they brought up Brave New World. Now the trailer did drop a few weeks ago at that point, and I remember when I saw Deadpool and Wolverine, they took out Isaiah. You saw him take out the gun, but they definitely cut away from the shooting of Thunderbolt Ross due to recent events, which totally get. But, it's one of those things that I get it, but it's also like, yeah, this is a comic book movie. I don't think, in this case we're going to be so, but neither here nor there. But, so yeah, Brave New World, we got the cast on the stage. We got a great moment with Harrison Ford being the incredible. I mean, I'm a Harrison Ford. He's my number one favorite actor of all time. And I love it when he hams it up on stage like that and does that. But, talk about kind of what you saw in that, because we know you all saw footage, and I kind of like footage mixed in with kind of a I think it was like a kind of a splash reel at the end.
Yeah, so the way they did it was, first of all, they kicked off the Hall H panel. They had all sorts of dancing Deadpools dancing up and down the aisles, to, I forget the name of the song, but it's one of Madonna's songs.
Probably the prayer song.
Yeah. So they had a variety of dancing Deadpools up and down the aisles. They had a whole choir on stage that came out singing the song as well, too, to kind of just to get us all hyped and excited for them starting. Then Kevin Feige came out and he brought on I forget the name of the actor, but Peter from the Deadpool franchise, and he served as the moderator for the whole thing. And he's the one that asked questions of Kevin Feige and the cast members as they came out at various points. So for all throughout the evening. So yeah, that's how they created the excitement for everything. And I can't remember the order of things exactly. I want to say they led with the extended footage.
Okay.
They might have brought out the cast first. I can't remember the order, if they brought out the cast first and talked a little bit about and then showed the footage, or if they kind of led in with the Captain America Brave New World footage. But I can tell you this: it was like probably a good 6 or 7 minute stretch of footage that they showed us. So very much like an extended trailer. The start of it was actually kind of a complete scene that was between Ross and Sam and them conversing, and them talking about the whole thing of wanting to make Captain America an official military position again, and the nature of that conversation. So the footage blew my mind. It was fantastic. It really just has cemented for me that this movie for a long time has been one of my most anticipated MCU projects coming up. I love Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson in the role. I love the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. And so I'm really, really excited for what they got coming.
Yeah, from what I'm reading from comicbook.com, Brandon Davis kind of breaks down saying in the footage, Harrison Ford's President Ross explains how when the celestial mass emerged from the Indian Ocean, humans squabbled over it and tried to export resources. He explains the new element belongs to all of us, which I kind of talked about in the trailer, saying like, my theory is he says that, but I think it's the Japanese first laid claim to it, and seems to be where this alliance is coming from. Moments later, the president and Sam talk about their past disagreements, which you just said, and desire to rebuild the Avengers. They discuss what will happen when they disagree and how to mend situations. Sam gets a new suit in the next clip, leading to a sizzle reel. Sidewinder locks and loads and calls out, stand by for proof of death before shooting at Sam. Tense footage brings Sam out. Ross wants the entire thing put to bed. Sam isn't happy with that. Cut to an action scene, Sam flying, chasing around Tiamat. But I think the biggest thing we got confirmation on is you all heard the words adamantium in the footage, and so we
Yes.
now that is the mineral, that is the resource that seems to be all this world now a Twitter.
Yeah, hearing Harrison Ford as President Ross utter the word adamantium, my jaw dropped. There was very much like I have my phone. Actually, no, phones were put away, obviously, at that point because they wanted us to make sure we weren't filming.
You had your phone put away. Some people didn't.
It was on, but it was turned down so that once the footage stopped, so I could bring the camera back up and record what's happening on stage. But I was very much like holy crap moment of that reveal. I would never in a million years have guessed that they were going to use the Celestial to explain how where adamantium comes from in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So seeing them connect those dots and that's how they're introducing that into this world. That was so thrilled. I was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. So that was a great moment.
Was it a crowd pop for that?
Oh yeah,
Gary?
A lot of people were like, whoa!
Okay.
A lot of people went nuts for that one.
What now? Hearing all this, Travis, and your kind of 2 cents on what you experienced with this particular part of the panel, Brave New World. What are your thoughts on not only just adamantium, but what was kind of shown out there?
I'm with Carrie too. Even before going into this, I was digging this. I really enjoyed Falcon and Winter Soldier, the series, and I'm right there with you with Anthony Mackie. I can't wait to see Red Hulk. Like the one little thing we got of him in the trailer, and then just seeing how alien Harrison Ford is, like being in the panel, like getting up and screaming, and like being into it. I can't wait to see this performance. So I can't wait to see also who the different factions that are going to be going after adamantium, because it's not just going to be the ones that we're going to hear a bit before we go in. There's going to be definitely somebody on the back burner trying to play the strings for this. So I can't wait. It's just so much to this film.
Yeah, and Flip Media saying, do we think Harrison Ford knows what adamantium means for the MCU? We'll assume the line is what he said recently during an interview with a question like this, saying, I really appreciate the opportunity to answer this, and I take it with 2 ways, dignity and indignity at that point, and I don't care is what. So this interviews is, I think they need to learn that he is gonna be respectful, but at a point you ask a question like that he doesn't care about, he's going to let you have it. But we also got that confirmation, and Giancarlo Esposito was right when he said that no one had guessed it right, and he was true to his word that he is playing the leader of the Serpent Society, Sidewinder, and everyone's, I know in our chat was like, okay, now I've got to look this up at this point because that is a deep pull. And I don't think we're going to get the comic accurate suit for Mr. Sidewinder at that point. But the fact that he also said that he's going to be in an unannounced Disney Plus show as one of the leads is going to be very interesting to see if we're going to get that at D23, some confirmation of that. But Sidewinder as one of our main antagonists next to the leader in this one. How do we all feel about that?
Didn't the Serpent Society get cut out? Like they had stuff that was filmed originally with like that Seth Rollins guy and other, so they changed that around.
He is cut out of the movie from what we understand. I believe his wife rumor has it that she is still in it, but he has been cut out of it. And I think that's an unfortunate history of Mr. Seth Rollins with being cut out of certain shows. But so Serpent Society is still in there, maybe in a different role, which is when they brought in Giancarlo into it. So, I like Giancarlo. I've been a big fan since his beginnings at that point. I've kind of followed his career even before Breaking Bad. But hey, that's a prestige actor. I wish one day, though, we will see him in his kind of heyday right now, not being a villain. I know he can do it. I've seen him not be a villain, but I mean, it brings him the money. So
I always defer to the first time I saw Giancarlo Esposito in something was in The Usual Suspects, and he was an FBI agent.
Yep.
And so that was my first. And I remember thinking, this guy is really good. I like this guy. I want to see more. It's one of my buddies there. He's. I didn't get into Breaking Bad when everyone else is, and I haven't watched the entire series, so I've seen only a few episodes with him in it. But I've loved everything he's been in whenever I've seen it, whether it's like The Boys or other stuff. So, but he was a protagonist at least in that short bit he was in The Usual Suspects. So it'd be cool to see him return. Anyways, his energy, everyone's energy on stage was fantastic. Like he was excited. Anthony Mackie is, he's a showman. He's a ball full of energy. And also the funny thing was once Harrison Ford came on stage, because Harrison Ford didn't come on until a little bit later after they brought out him and the other guys and also I'm forgetting the name. The guy who plays Samuel Stearns, the actor who's playing the leader.
Oh my God, Tim Blake. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they were on the stage, and Harrison Ford came out a little bit later. But dude, Anthony Mackie was ribbing on Harrison Ford. Oh, yeah. He was throwing some comments his way to really to not really rub salt in the wound, but to play with their probably antagonism between each other in the movie. And then Harrison Ford's like, see, I've been dealing with this for the last year and a half or something like that, So the way that Harrison Ford just kind of pretends to Hulk out, in the moment, it was just got everyone excited and cheering and whatnot.
Yeah, Flip's saying Tim Blake Nelson. Yep, that's correct. And he's saying that they were super overdramatic about how secretive his character was. I think a lot of people were disappointed because they made everyone think it was going to be a massive role and how secretive it was. Yeah, again, they'll play it up at that point, get some the taglines, and when it was like, yeah, I mean, you're right. No one would guess it. The GW Bridge was an interesting guess. Still was, if that ended up being, it was like, okay, I'll wait till I see it, but it wasn't necessarily on my bingo card. So, but all right, let's kind of transition into the Thunderbolts and see and kind of talk about that. So, Thunderbolts asterisks. I don't even know if we're going to call it the Thunderbolts with an asterisk. What was kind of your experiences on the floor with that?
So most of the cast comes out, and then when they announce David Harbour, he doesn't come out on stage from the usual spot that everyone else does, and they're like, David Harbour, David, where are you? And then all of a sudden he comes out on the side. He's walking through the aisles on the, where we're all sitting, and he's in his Red Guardian costume. And he's not in character. Well, I think he was in character at first. And then as he gets closer to the stage, he looks at all the rest of the cast. He's like, wait a minute, you guys aren't in costume? You guys promised we would all, this is Comic-Con. You promised we would all show up in costume. I'm so embarrassed. And then he's like throwing, jabs at, verbal jabs at Sebastian Stan and other people in the cast and whatnot, and even Florence Pugh. And then as he's walking off to the side later to get out of costume, he's like, I can't believe that Florence Pugh. She's says some things about her and whatnot. So he was so much fun to see him like ham it up in character like that. And yeah, just it's always fun whenever they show up somewhat in character, or at least in costume. It's always a delight, and it's part of the whole thing. Here's the thing I want to say about Marvel Studios as a whole with their Hall H panels. I think not everyone, I don't know why this doesn't get communicated more often. Marvel Studios treats their Hall H panel, they treat it like a rock concert. Like they really do.
That's fair. Yeah.
They're trying to create that same sense of excitement of you're there to see this really unique performance that you're not going to see anywhere else. And it's this unique window of time in this unique spot. And, I do believe Kevin Feige is a showman. He's not the one talking all the time or even the majority of the time on the panel, but he knows how to work the crowd. He knows how to hype. Oh, yeah. He knows how to build excitement and connect with the audience that way. So I really do think this is all the presentation and the way the actors come on stage, some showing up in costume, some not, or the way they show footage, or then they announce certain character reveals. It is all part of the whole thing of like, it's creating this rock concert feel of an experience when you're there.
Yeah, and that would make sense. I mean, Travis, what do you kind of feel about that? I think that's a pretty accurate statement.
That's basically what you want for SDCC, if I'm being honest with you, just to have a shared experience like that. Rock concerts, same thing with movies. He knows when he speaks about movies, he talks about the shared experience. So it would make sense, Kerry, that he makes extra effort to ensure that's like quite an experience for people. But this might be the one time you get to Hall H. Like
Yeah.
some people might not go every time, so I'm sure he's cognizant of that as well.
Yep, for sure.
So, but yeah. So Thunderbolts. What was the footage they showed you?
The footage they showed, it starts off. You might have somebody written for that will help with it, but like it starts off with Yelena going and finding her father, and he's kind of in a disheveled apartment and living on his own, kind of like a slob. And he tries to clean the place up when he realizes it's her at the door, and she proceeds to say, "I need you to help me with something," and I forget what other things that she says. But then it kind of cuts to this series of kind of checking in with the various characters, like John Walker, who else? Winter Soldier, and then it ultimately coalesces into all of the majority of the characters showing up in one room with each other. No one knows who they've never met each other, never encountered each other, and of course it's just a fight ensues, like a big group fight of them all fighting each other from one angle or the other, going from one opponent to the next, not really realizing, but the room was like closed up, and so they're kind of caught and trapped in there, and I think eventually the room opens up a little bit, and then Ghost shows up, and so no one knows what to do with Ghost because of her power set. So it's just such cool, like it definitely feels very, the thing I always liked about the Black Widow movie and the action in the Black Widow movie, or even Captain America: The Winter Soldier, I love that, like that Bourne Identity style of fighting, of that kind of fight choreography and that level of visceral intensity. That is very much echoed and matched here among the various characters of the Thunderbolts. At least in that first scene when they're all kind of brought together. They don't know why they're each kind of there for one reason that the other person doesn't know about. And I think it's ultimately Valentina's schemes of getting them all together and putting.
You can't even say her name. You can't even think it.
I didn't call her Val. I said Valentina. So I followed.
No, that's even crossing the line. That's even crossing.
I have to say the whole thing.
No, you can't even think it. Can't say it. Can't think it. Don't even acknowledge it at that point.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character.
There you go.
There you go.
She shows up on screen and then proceeds to start talking to them. I can't remember the specifics of what she said.
I think she says something to the effect of, from what I'm looking at here and what I remember from other descriptions of it, like she says, you're not good guys. There are good guys, and then there's bad guys, and then there's worse. Mm-hmm. And you are not good. And so basically everyone keeps on saying, oh, this is Marvel's version of the Suicide Squad. Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of. In a way it is. In a way it isn't.
Yeah. More established characters, like characters we've seen before in the MCU.
We'll put those in quotes too.
But we've seen, characters, reappearing characters. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Suicide Squad, the first one or the second one, well, besides a couple, Harley Quinn and Boomerang, but for the most part, and Captain Flat or Joel.
It's sort of the idea of like taking these characters that have been supporting characters in other movies and maybe like lesser known characters, and just kind of throwing them in this big melting pot and sort of seeing the stew that comes out of it. Which I'm really excited for, because I'm looking forward to, even that this wasn't in the footage. This is just my own speculation of, what's the conversation between Yelena and Bucky going to be like?
William in the chat at that point, he said he was attacked by Carrie and he demands justice. What did you do to William?
I just, he was. I think there was a line. It wasn't the Marvel Studios panel. It was. I think it was trying to get into the Jim Lee spotlight panel. And I was just. I think he was either on his phone. His face was down. And then I went up to him. I was like, "Hey, man!" I might have tapped him on the shoder or something like that. And he kind of took him by surprise. So,
good to see you, William.
Yep. Yeah.
But it was the other part of the footage they talked about was Bucky entering a courtroom. U.S. agent looks at news articles about himself. Discount Steve Rogers, discount Captain America. Mm-hmm. Another hallway fight. Reminiscent of Iron Man 2, Black Widow fight. We see Ghost. So, we see Bob entering wearing a hospital gown. So they're still not acknowledging that Louis Pullman is a Sentry. They're still not acknowledging that, even though everything we know is pretty much pointing to that signal outside of the firm up nature. But it is. I'm curious. I mean, Sentry is kind of an interesting character to bring into the MCU, especially with the, you know, his condition, as it were. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly this team possibly going toe to toe with the Sentry, which is what I'm basically kind of feeling is, inevitable in this movie.
It seemed to me like because he introduces himself as Bob, and they're like, Bob who? And he's like, just Bob or whatever. I feel like that was kind of a at least for the audience, kind of a throwback to his character in Top Gun Maverick. And just kind of the idea of like, oh, there's really nothing, he's trying to present it as what you see is what you get sort of thing. Like there's really no air of mystery. Well, obviously we know there's more mystery to him in this with Thunderbolts, but in that Top Gun Maverick, he was just Bob. He's just regular guy, so I feel like they're trying to put on that they're trying to frame it in that same mindset here. And also Louis Pullman, he didn't say anything on stage, like he didn't answer any questions or anything like that. He was just there to wave and smile basically.
What do you think about this, Travis, from Thwip saying is Bob the target that each of the Thunderbolts are after?
That would make sense too, because it could be the one that Helena's after, because she could be trying to carry out a contract, and that might bring her into this whole thing. It sounds like Val's just trying to assemble them to go after her, but I do think some of these characters could be going after her initially going after Bob initially before the Thunderbolts get into action.
Yeah, and Williams says clarification. He was on his way to the DC All Access panel when he was accosted. And you better be careful, Carrie. Lawsuits may be coming.
He's bigger than me, so.
But I would say, like, all in all, my level between both of the, like, Brave New World and Thunderbolts. Brave New Worlds is a step above right now with Thunderbolts. I'm curious about Thunderbolts. I'm not one of these people. Oh, they're a whole group of people that have all the similar kind of things. Like that doesn't necessarily, you're not missing wrong, but that's kind of low hanging fruit. I'm just more of like, what's bringing them together? What's the big story, and how is this connecting to the overall kind of MCU of where it is? Because right now, this is not something that, in my opinion, right now, I don't see how it connects to the Multiverse saga. I'm very curious to see what the Asterix is supposed to reveal. My big thing is Asterix Dark Avengers. This is the most Avengers like movie that we've had since the end of Phase 3. So.
Yeah, and they didn't specify.
God, right.
They didn't specify this. In the Brave New World footage, they did show Ross talking to Sam about creating a new Avengers team of some kind.
Yeah.
So they did have that conversation in the middle of that footage. So just kind of knowing where these things are in sequence with each other, it seems to me like, Ross wants to get Captain America back in play. He wants an Avengers team, and then at the same time, Valentina de Fontaine, however you say her complete name, she's taken it upon herself to form her own team because she's been able to make connections between all these people in her own way. So I feel like they're both of them, independent of each other, are trying to sort of like answer the question of where are the Avengers? Who are the Avengers post Endgame? Who are the people?
Nobody knows, and we're still not going to know by the end of this year.
Yeah, but even within the narrative of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I feel like the Thunderbolts is sort of attempting to address that.
Oh yeah,
to their own degree. So,
I agree.
And going back to what you said, like not worrying about I'm not stressing about the fact that they're what their different power sets are. A lot of them are kind of winter soldiery like, or very super spy like.
Enhanced, yeah.
Yeah. But like, I'm interested in seeing like, is Yelena Belova going to look at Bucky and say, "You're the one who tried to shoot my sister"?
Yeah.
Or you tried to kill my sister multiple times, and like, it's like you say you're not that guy anymore, but I don't know. So I'm looking forward to like that kind of dynamic, or it's like, oh, you were Red Guardian, be like, you were Captain America's best friend. And he'll go on about his war stories, and I keep going like, dude, you were never there, or something to that effect. So I'm just really interested in this melting pot of personalities and the character dynamics that's going to ensue. The footage definitely got me excited and got me interested. Like, I'm very curious. I very much want to see this. It'll be really cool to go from Brave New World into this. I think that's kind of a natural sequence.
Yeah, Johnny Sagum in the chat saying Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character probably lied to all of them to get each one of them to do the job, and their survival is the trap to test them to join the Thunderbolts. I would agree with that. What do you got?
She also capitalized on a lot of these people when they were at their lowest too.
Mm-hmm.
So like she didn't have to pitch a lot of them, like the U.S. agent. He didn't have anywhere else to go. He was going to jail essentially.
Exactly.
So yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see at that point. But we're gonna take our first ad break before we break down the last two panels of the SDCC panel. So, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they could be a bit out. So give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right. So the Fantastic Four. That's what we learned. That's what we knew the movie was going to be titled. And then we got the title after the footage was shown as The Fantastic Four First Steps. And if I had to say a big miss right now of this entire panel that landed with a big thud and a fart in the wind was that title, that subtitle. The First Steps, I said, well, I'm okay with them. I totally get why they needed to do a subtitle when this would be the third or fourth movie with that, the Fantastic Four. You just want to get tired of putting the years by it. So I'm okay with a subtitle. And I'm sure the first steps, meaning in the sense of like the first steps of what they're doing and things like that, it's gonna make sense. But I would have been totally. I think there are better subtitles, at least in my opinion, would have been The First Family, or something along the lines of that. Or even Fantastic Four, Flame On, or something along the lines. But I would have been fine with The First Family. So, but kind of what you what did you kind of see? I think this is the one that a lot of us saw people leaking the footage out. So I think Travis has seen it, I've seen it. We got our first look at Galactus very quickly. I am more shocked knowing that they started getting together. Like, what was it? Like Monday or Tuesday before SDCC that they started. I think it was the previous weekend, actually. They were starting filming, and they got to London, even though we were told they weren't going to start principal photography until the Monday or Tuesday after SDC. So they were doing something, and they assembled something like that. That shows me that they've known exactly what they're getting ready to do, and that this is more put together than people think.
Oh yeah, there's definitely pre-vid stuff done to this, and already ideas of what they want to do. Like they had the story locked in long before they decided to do this. So I agree with you, Chris. They've definitely done a lot of legwork before starting this.
What about you, Carrie, based on what you saw on the floor?
I mean, honestly, I was really impressed by what they showed as far as the footage goes, because I didn't expect anything. I expected just some images of concept art, like I think.
And the cast. We got the cast.
We got the cast coming out, which I was like, that's all I anticipated with how they would do is just bring the cast out and have them talk about their roles a little bit and say, yeah, we're excited to start filming, and then kind of that be that. But the fact that they had a test reel, which really did, it felt like a legit teaser to me.
Yeah.
It had the I'm surprised I didn't know it had gotten leaked.
There were definitely a number of people either taking screenshots, and I definitely saw like 3 or 4 different angles of the full thing.
Okay.
So
I got on TikTok, and it was the full trailer was on there. Like my second thing I scrolled, I was like,
you play by the rules, Kara. We appreciate that.
Yeah. But hey, I would say, you know what? You want to put out a lesser quality version of it? I got to see it on a big screen with amazing sound. So
I already read the descriptions for all 3 trailers, so it didn't matter as much. But I'm like, okay, what is this?
It was really what was really cool, I thought, was like it had that 1960s TV grain. Like if you're watching a television set, back in that time, it would have that kind of grainy look and feel to it, just because that's how those TVs worked or whatever. So it was kind of neat that was filmed in that fashion. You got Reed Richards teaching a classroom of teaching physics in a classroom to some degree. You're showing them you didn't see them in their. I don't remember the footage showing them in their Fantastic Four costumes.
I think they've definitely kept that. I don't think they're ready to show that. I think that's going to be probably our first official. Either that's going to leak out as set footage, or they're going to keep that under wraps until the first real teaser.
Yeah, but I mean, seeing them getting into the spacesuits to go off onto the launch, the launching into space that they're going to do, seeing the general dynamics between the various members and whatnot, especially seeing Reed talk about Ben Grimm and saying Ben Grimm's like the best pilot he's ever known. I think that was part of the footage there. And yeah, just the tone of it was cool. And I was just so impressed. I'm like, because it was a good 2 to 3 minute long reel that they showed us. So kind of what you just mentioned, like the fact that they filmed what just seems like almost like this is like the test footage of them, of the characters interacting, or maybe this is like, hey, we are going to do some kind of pre-production filming that's not going to be part of the movie, but we're filming it specifically for Comic-Con, and then incorporating some of the other, like the tag, like the last shot of that footage is probably what's been seen and talked about, is like just like this, like the upper half of Galactus's face, like lowering himself down and peering into like the window of a building of some kind. Yeah. And when that shot happened, everyone was like, "Wah!" Everyone.
I mean, hey, we don't get a fart cloud anymore, so and the fact that we see, but I mean, the voice of who Galactus is going to be, man, I'm sorry, I loved it in The Green Knight. Man, he is a perfect casting for the voice of Galactus.
I agree. Yeah.
We got.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I was kind of like, shoot, the footage they showed, I want that to be in the movie. So I hope at the very least they include it as a special feature, for Disney Plus or Blu-ray, featurette or something like that. So, but I mean, I think you're spot on that. Like, they've known they've had this cast for a long time. They've known, and they've behind the scenes secretly, without been able to cobble together this bit of filming and test footage, and kind of maybe this is what they were putting together, or maybe this was Matt Sheckman trying to put together something to say, this is the vibe and the tone and the feel of what we're going for with this movie, even if this isn't what we're actually going to start filming, now.
So do you think the whole movie, Travis from Flip Media saying, do you think the whole movie will be in 4:3 and have that retro grain, or do you think this was just kind of an aesthetic choice they may put this in trailers, but that's not how the movie is actually going to be?
I'd put my money as they're just going to put it in trailers. It's going to be part of the marketing. The whole part of the marketing is going to be the 60 vibes. So
I could see it maybe like in the first few minutes of the movie, kind of in the same way that like in Iron Man 2 you had the Stark Expo with footage of Howard Stark talking about the Stark Expo when he first set it up and whatnot. So I could see them doing that kind of thing to kind of sort of help bring you in the world, because it does have that 1960s retro feel, like the way that people in the 60s imagined what the future would be like when you go to Disneyland or Disney World, and you go to Tomorrowland, and the aesthetic of what the future kind of looked like when the park was originally built, or the Jetsons. It's got that,
it's got that feel.
It's got that aesthetic to it. The New York skyline that they're going for, and the nature of technology. So it's the kind of thing that Howard Stark wished could have. In the 616 MCU, Howard Stark could have happened in the next 10, 20 years, but didn't actually pan out that way. But it did on this Earth. So, I think the footage really captures that unique thing, and I imagine there'll probably be something at the beginning of the movie that kind of shows that, to just try to really, and that'll be their way to really tell the audience that like this is part of the multiverse. This is not the same as where phases 1 through 3 or phase 4 even took place. This is a completely new world, and get ready to go along for this really wonderful ride.
Yeah, I'm very curious in the sense of seeing, I'm excited for the movie. I mean, I'm not going to lie, but I am not a Fantastic Four uber fan. It's definitely one of those that you don't see in my collection just because I read them, I like them, but it's not one that's saying, "Oh, I love the Fantastic Four." I read them enough to know a lot about them, but it's not a part of my best favorite parts of Marvel.
Yeah, my exposure is mostly just like the '90s animated series that ran for a brief period alongside the Iron Man series. So
They did a really good animated series, I want to say between 2000 2010. That was,
Okay.
I think it was just one season, might be two. That was really good. There was a lot of good pulls there, and it took it quite serious. It was nice.
I'm sure you guys have talked about this to some degree or another. Like, I mean, I like the first two, Fantastic Four movies at Fox with Jessica Alba and Vic Mackey from The Shield, Michael Chiklis.
Yeah.
I like those movies well enough. But
It served the time. It's movies of its time of the '90s, and
but they were inherently kind of cheesy too, also, and I don't think you needed to be. And so I really I'm looking forward to the level of sincerity that Marvel's always had with their projects that they're going to bring to it, while still being in this retro '60s timeline and being that first family. And that's the thing the cast very much mentioned. They talked a lot about this is a family. That makes them a really unique dynamic as opposed to like any other teams that have been put together. In the world.
And I think the big thing that I've said, and I'm not the only one who's said this, I can't necessarily lay claim to it, is that we've had a great Fantastic Four movie. It's called The Incredibles, and even Michael Giacchino even brought up that point because he's the composer for it, and he says, I really have to find a way to differentiate, which I know he's an amazing composer and director within his own right, that he's going to find a way, but I can understand, like, he's the one who gave that music and that one. He was their composer, so he kind of put forth that effort, so now he has to differentiate that and make it its own unique thing, and we did kind of get that hint for you. With kind of the music that was for the drone show. So we do see that. But William in the chat saying, I have more of an event feel for Fantastic Four that just began shooting than I do Superman, which is just wrapped. So
apparently you can't do a panel. It's just not possible for people to, in the middle of the shooting, to take a day off and come and do a panel and show even just a clip of Superman flying. Nope. It's just too much.
It is too much.
Just too much, William.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. You're not wrong, William, at all. You're definitely
marketing 101, William. Like common sense 101. Why would you?
We've heard enough of William. He is our marketer in house on the vodka stream. At that point, he's got everyone's number when it comes to how you appropriately do this stuff. So I trust William, and I agree with him on this point.
Oh yeah, and it's not like you didn't do it it's not like that didn't happen for another cosmic group back in 2013 for Hall H. So, anyways,
yeah. So let's get to the final part.
Before that though, I have to talk about how as they were wrapping up, and they said, "Okay, these guys got to get back to London and go start filming," and
yep.
And they brought in the Fantastic Car.
Yeah.
And it is actually like hovering inside of Hall H. I couldn't see the wires necessarily or anything, but it comes in from the side and then kind of hovers over the stage and whatnot. So just the fact that that's how they decided to cap the Fantastic Four panels, like by having like a hover car actually floating above the audience there in Hall H, just was it was wonderful. It was magic.
William saying, I just threw up in my mouth with the Incredibles. You're welcome, William. Absolutely.
Oh, and Giacchino, like he's gonna crush it. He is fantastic.
100%.
And I really do think, and also like just the pairing of Matt Shakman with what he did with WandaVision, him directing the FF, this cast they have, and Giacchino, like just all the elements of like this just is gonna come together to be something I think really, really special.
Yeah, that's what's saying. Imagine they had Herbie come out there and escort the cast off stage, kind of like R2D2 in the Hall H. Yeah, I mean, we're all waiting to see exactly who is going to be the voice of Herbie. So we've got.
Literally, they couldn't put him. They couldn't put Johnny in one of the animated series back in the day because he would flame on. So they put the robot in
Yeah.
as the fourth person.
That was a good way to end it. That what really was, and so we end with the big announcement at that point that had leaked earlier in the week that the Russos are coming back to Marvel. Feige brings them on stage, and they are not only just going to be they're directing both Avengers movie, kind of how they did before. We get the new title for Avengers 5, no longer the Kang Dynasty. It is now called Doomsday. And then Avengers Secret Wars is still Avengers Secret Wars, but with Doomsday, we get this green light going all over at that point. And they made the statement like, it's one of Marvel's most illustrious and most celebrated characters ever. And I think when it said that the Hall was turning green, I hadn't seen the title yet, so I said the Hall's turning green. Are we talking about the Hulk? It's a celebrated character. I don't know if we've heard rumors of World War Hulk. I hadn't seen the title yet. So Doomsday. Oh, they're talking about Doom, and then they bring all these. What was it like to seeing? After the Russos come on, like you see all these basically Doom bots or Doom-like bots at that point come on stage. Did you think you were gonna get a reveal of who Doom was gonna be?
Well, this just shows you that how well they know how to put on a show.
Mm-hmm.
They set all the pieces of this up perfectly. So we're already on a high from the previous 3 movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they announced and talked about in the cast being out. And then they have the kind of a clip reel of the 4 Russo brothers MCU movies to say, yeah, the Russos are back. The Russos come out on stage. And then they talk about how they really did think that after Avengers Endgame that they were done, that they were emotionally and even as fans, they were tapped out. They put everything they had into Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. And I think the proof is in the pudding on the screen. So they did say we genuinely were done. And then the time went by. They did some other creative things, and then the opportunity, the conversation circled back to them. And they said that we've been lifelong Marvel Comics fan, and Secret Wars was I think they've said it multiple times, like the Secret Wars was one of their favorite series, or maybe the series that got them introduced to the world of Marvel characters and comics. So, they emphasized initially, yes, we're directing Marvel's Secret Wars. They said, but there's a thing we have, before we can tell that story, there's a completely other story that we have to tell with one of these more illustrious characters. And then the lights kind of go down, you get the green shimmering lights, and then you get that kind of what felt like choral music being played in those multiple Doctor Dooms in costume walking out on stage. And then the Avengers Doomsday logo showing up. The crowd goes nuts. Everyone was going like, oh my gosh, yeah, going crazy for it, shouting, cheering. And then they, the lights go back on to Joe and Anthony Russo and Kevin Feige. And they say, they talk about the fact that they're in a multiverse, and Victor Von Doom is such an important character within the multiverse they did say Victor Von Doom. They didn't call him Dr. Doom.
Yep.
And then they said, and so because of that, we need the greatest, most talented, the most important actor, the greatest actor of our generation. There's only one person who could play this character. And then, then one of the Dooms proceeds to walk forward, pulls off the mask, and it's Robert Downey Jr. And once, as expected, the crowd just goes insane with excitement and cheers and applause and standing ovations. So
yeah, I love his line: "New mask, same task." At that point, and there's something to that thing that says "same task." There is something to that as well. Travis, what was your kind of first reaction? I've already said my reactions on live when it happened. I audibly definitely dropped a little bit of profanity at that point, because at the moment I was like, I can't believe that's happening.
You just echoed my thoughts, Chris. I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. I'm coming back to one question for Carrie. Was this possibly one of the loudest reactions you've ever experienced at Hall H?
Oh, absolutely. It is very much up there. There's probably only, in my years of going, there's probably only a couple times where you can, I wish I had a decibel meter or of some kind to give like, oh, we got higher decibels on this one than this one. But no, like that one probably ranks up there with I know for me the Batman v Superman footage, or like one of the years I wasn't there when Zack Snyder announced Batman v Superman with Harry Lennox reading a portion from The Dark Knight Returns and the logo reveal and the way the crowd was going nuts. It was probably kind of on that level, to be honest. I can't remember the crowd cheering that loudly in 2019 when they did the whole Phase 4 slate reveal, but everyone came out of that room just like, oh, I cannot believe what we're getting now post Endgame, and the roadmap that's been laid out for us was just so exciting. So,
Thwip's asking, did you notice anyone kind of visibly disappointed by the reveal?
Not around me, and certainly not that I could discern in the room. I saw reactions online for sure. I saw, I won't name drop, but like another podcaster who we've listened to at various points that does focus on Marvel stuff. I'm still waiting to hear some of his more specific thoughts on that reveal. But when he was giving his live reaction on one of his podcast episodes, he was very much just like, I really don't know how I feel about this. So yeah, I'm still waiting to hear what now that it's marinated a little bit more. Just to give you my general thoughts on it.
Yeah.
This is one of those situations where I've always thought Doctor Doom was cool. I don't know him super well as a character. I had the action figure from when I was a kid. Would see him pop up in cartoons and things like that here and there, or, when he would show up in comics and whatnot. I've never had in my mind who my perfect fan casting is for him. I just never known specifically who would best capture the attitude and persona of Doctor Doom perfectly. So in that sense, Robert Downey Jr. doesn't break that, but it makes me go like, well, Robert Downey Jr. playing Tony Stark was vain, was egotistical, was narcissistic, was wanting to be in control. And so I don't think he's going to be like a full-on variant of Tony Stark, but I think it's going to be a situation of Victor Von Doom just happens, from whatever universe he comes from, happens to look like Tony Stark in the 616 world. So that's my suspicion of how they're going to play it. This ultimately comes down to like, you know what? I trust the Russos. I trust Kevin Feige, whoever they're getting. I'm not sure if they've announced the writing team behind Doomsday or who's going to touch up.
McFeely is now going to be the writer of both at that point. Waldron has now has stepped aside.
Yeah. And McFeely has obviously worked closely with the Russo brothers multiple times over to great success. So, which the other guy, which Marcus was there with it too, but who knows the reasons why. I will say though, and I don't know how much you guys have talked about this, I really, as much as I'm open and excited for Dr. Doom and the role he's going to play and whatever they're mapping out, I am kind of disappointed isn't the right word, but I'm kind of like hoping they don't just literally write off Kang with a few lines of dialogue, because that's how
he went home to his planet, like with Poochie.
See, that kind of thing. That's a big. That's one of my.
I did not think we'd hear Poochie, the Rockin' Dogs.
Well, I mean, okay. Well, the other example, Men in Black 2, and how they wrote out Linda Fiorentino. I mean, the movie wasn't good in general, but like you had a cool character with Linda Fiorentino's character as Elle. And I liked her a lot from the first Men in Black movie, and they set up her to be an MIB agent, and then. Why is she not in the sequel? Oh, she just couldn't hack it. So I know, I had to neuralize her. Like one line of dialogue explains away why a character is not there when, all the reasons for the character to be there are still in existence. So yeah, for me personally, the end of Loki season 2 with a line of dialogue was like, oh, we're starting to wrap up all the Kangs now. Is not going to be satisfying for me. So I need to see something visually, even if it's only like in the first 30 minutes of Avengers Doomsday. Like if they wrap it up quick, I mean, I just say recast and just for a hot minute. I mean, whether you kill off Kangs or you dispel like the various members of the Council of Kangs. Like I've never been against the recast. I think the recast option has always been the better option. I just want to see it visually resolved somehow, or maybe just say put Kang on the back burner. Maybe we'll circle back to, or like Immortus, circle back to them at a later point when they figure out a better story to utilize them in. So, but I hope it's not just like, oh, this guy's no longer, or these multiple Kangs are no longer a threat because we're just bringing Doctor Doom. I hope it's not literally like hand wavy 2 or 3 lines of dialogue that writes him out. Because that would frustrate me. That would disappoint me, because I just feel like that to me, that just, if you're looking at it from the trajectory of how it all fits in the narrative, it's a pretty strong break for me.
What are your thoughts, Travis?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Chris. I'm of two minds. Like, I was excited to hear about RDJ being coming back to the MCU, but also I wouldn't hate to have a completely different Doctor Doom that is in the MCU for several phases and comes up. Like, Doctor Doom is fantastic. He drops into some like animated series and comic books and just completely overpowers anyone. I love the character. And again, I don't know if I want him to be done after Secret Wars. Like, I would like him to be a fixture in the MCU going forward. And I feel like this is just a couple movies and I'm out again Downey thing. Like, couple appearances, obviously, in post-credit scene, but a couple full actual movies and I'm out again. So I'm hoping that's not the case, or they do bring in a different version of Doctor Doom with the Fantastic Four after this. But now everything I'm hearing is that he's going to be a variant from that film. So I don't know. I hope that they have their own Doctor Doom to deal with, not just...
Yeah. Matt Jackman has said that he is not commenting on Doom being involved in any way, shape, or form at that point, which is basically code, as in our world, is like, yeah, you basically just confirmed it with your non-committal answer at that point. Mara Daniels in the chat saying, I agree with the sentiment that this Doom casting feels desperate. Thwip saying, I've always wanted Henry Cavill as Doom. I've even had mock-ups as him in the role. William saying no one around him seemed disappointed. Thwip saying you could open Doomsday the same way with Infinity War open, Thanos killing the Asgardians. Now it can be Doom annihilating the Kangs in the Coliseum. Yep, I've seen that. Also saying Doom should always be the villain that keeps being a pain in the ass for the heroes, just like the comics. You can't get rid of him. Yeah, he's like a cockroach, you know. All in the game. Go ahead.
It could just be like, one version of Doom that Robert Downey Jr. is playing, and then depending on how, like, my theory of Secret Wars has been that they won't get rid of all the pieces of the multiverse, but they'll definitely consolidate to some degree. Like, there still will be a sacred timeline, but then maybe there'll just be a fewer. There won't be as many branches. There'll be just like a few tangential branches to the timeline, so that you can still play with multiverse when you want to. But then after that point, then it's new X-Men cast. Maybe a new Victor Von Doom casting post Secret Wars, and that's been my theory for a little while.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to, again, there is a possibility that we're going to have an Avengers that will never face Kang. I don't like thinking like that, because Kang next to Doom is one of their, I know Doom's a Fantastic Four villain, but when it comes down to it, Doom and Kang can both be Fantastic Four villains in a way, but also when it comes down to it, they're Avengers level threats.
Well, you got to think too that, like, they want to do more than just this one Fantastic Four movie with this cast, So even though this specific, Fantastic Four First Steps is leading to Secret Wars. And Feige did say that the Fantastic Four cast will be part of Doomsday and Secret Wars. He did say that, so that they will continue to be part of those. But, like, you got to imagine they want to keep do another 2, maybe 3 movies with that cast post Secret Wars even. So if and they probably want to keep, Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby.
Oh, they're getting the trilogy experience for sure.
Oh yeah,
for sure. So, in that regard, there's no reason to not continue with either Victor Von Doom or Kang in some capacity. Like, you can keep telling stories of those characters, and by that point, by this point even, the audience is well aware of different actors playing different roles of different versions of characters. So. I think we're going to be well set up for if the recasting happens, and we're just enjoying Robert Downey Jr. for this moment too. I mean, yeah, so maybe there is a bit of desperation to it. I'm not going to rule that out, but like, I don't think it's going to not work for him. And Robert Downey Jr. is a really talented actor, so he can create a completely different persona for Victor Von Doom than what we've seen with Tony Stark. So,
yeah, all in the game saying the question of what happened with Marcus not coming back. I don't know. Again, it's maybe one of those that he may be already involved in something else, and you're saying, why would you turn down another opportunity? I don't know. I'm sure whenever he decides wants to go on record about why not this time at this point, I right now I have no inklings of anything sinister or falling out at that point. Maybe it just comes down to a simple thing like scheduling, and money can't buy everything.
All four of them are producers at Agbo, so maybe there's a specific project he's tied up with, and that he
finds more passionate about than ringing the bell of the Avengers again. Yep. So.
And the demands that come with that too, Chris. Maybe you just want to be like, yeah, the demands that come with running those too. Maybe you're just like, I don't want to handle that anymore. I'm done.
Yeah, all the games talking about also like an Avengers team. What would people expect when an Avengers team that's just quickly thrown together in a relatively short space of time? What are they possibly going to do? Yeah, that's another thing to think about too. I'm one of these people that I'm an RDJ fan. He's definitely one of my favorite actors. He's proven himself. He got that Oscar he's wanted to. So yeah, when he made that statement about after he won the Oscar about thinking about coming back and doing it, that's when he started saying, yeah, sure, I could think about it. But before that, absolutely not. He had been done his tons of time. He got the thing he wanted in the sense of, okay, I am not strictly defined by this character. I'm better than can show I'm a better actor. I've now got the proof I'm a better actor than just that. But I knew I definitely wasn't on my bingo card for this, but in my opinion, I'm a wait and see kind of person. I'm not this necessarily wasn't who I thought was going to be Doom, but I like the same thing I say with Heath Ledger. I'm willing to give it a chance in the sense of let me see the story first before giving full things. I understand people's disappointment. I understand people's reservations. I understand when people say, oh, this is a safe move. This is a move of, desperation. But I'm also saying, like, this is also a big risk for Marvel to do this at this point. That is a big risk to pivot, not only bringing back RDJ, but RDJ in a different role that people are like, oh, we're not going to, there was no one else to play this role. Whatever they're doing to bring back RDJ, you can call it desperate, you can call it a big risk at this point. There is a story-driven element with this. And I want to kind of put forth, this is a theory I've been kind of seeing different people say certain things, but also this is things I've been thinking about in the last week. So going back to Endgame, Tony figured out time travel in a night, okay? And remember in his final message to Morgan and Pepper was like, this time travel thing has got me scratching my head about survivability. Now, right before this, he explains that, he's making this video in case his untimely death. But right after that, he says that death at any point is untimely. So if he was able to understand that time travel and understand quantum physics about quantum jumping enough and understand how time works, he wouldn't have understood it in the way that Loki understands it because he's not been in the TVA. He wouldn't understand it in the way Doctor Strange does, looking at it from the Time Stone. He understands it in a scientific way. He understood that time worked and how the branches worked and how it needed to be ordered and able to jump through. That's how he made time travel possible. Now, on a scientific side, and I say scientific, this is comic book science. Yes, I understand the whole thing. But stay with me here. He would have understood that there were other versions of people in other dimensions and other universes. Tony never would have agreed to this mission or gone into this without knowing that he could get back to Pepper and Morgan because that was his biggest thing. He is not risking his family doing this. Now, a lot of people say that Dr. Doom will be a variant of Tony. Could be. That's not how they introduced him. But it still could be. So going off that theory, what if Tony found a way to attach himself to another dimension, another universe, another reality as a failsafe in hopes of getting back? This leads me to the next thought that really far ahead, Doctor Strange looking to the possible outcomes of the future. What else did he see? We know he at least looked ahead 5 years and knew what, if they all got dusted away, that 5 years later, the rest of the Avengers would come back and find a way to bring them back and would be able to end that part of the war. I think Strange saw far more than he ever thought he would have seen at that point. And I think that that is something that is very big to explore, which is why I think that's that's how I'm thinking this is kind of might go down. It's an idea, it's a theory. Will there we see? But I think Strange knows more about what the future lies ahead than anything than just 5 years.
Did either of you guys read the 2099 line of comics when those were coming out in the
Yes.
early mid 90s?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And one of the books was Doom 2099.
Oh yeah, that Doom I'm a bit. Oh yes, that Doom is scary.
It's been a while since I've looked at that book, because they're packed away somewhere. But I sort of remember the way that first issue opens. Dr. Doom somehow time travels into the future, finds himself in 2099. But then over the course of those first couple of issues, they reveal that that person is not actually Victor Von Doom. It's like someone else who has the memories of Victor Von Doom, or his body has been made to be younger because he doesn't have the facial scars and things like that. So there could be some element of it where a variant of Tony Stark who has landed somewhere and lost his memory of who he is and thinks he's this whole, and he lands up in Latveria and he has no memory of who he is, but he's this brilliant engineer. And maybe he's lands in the middle of a place where, and I'm purely spitballing and shooting from some kind of civil war happening in Latveria, and he ends up being someone who figures out a way to resolve it or solve it or stop it or help one side win over the other. And as a result of that, because he plays such a pivotal role, or because of his intelligence, causes him to become like their de facto leader. He then becomes the ruler of Latveria, and he just sort of continues in that identity, forgetting who he was as a variant of Tony Stark. I mean, again, pure craziness, speculation. So
it's gonna be one of those where we're gonna have a lot of theories. They're gonna start filming within the next year, and we're gonna start building towards this. I think my fascination comes as our only look at Doom going to be in Fantastic Four. Are we going to start laying the foundations of Doom at some points? Because I had put forth a theory, and I wasn't the only one, that I think Doom at one point may or may not have been in Wakanda forever. That discussion I still think was had and was going to be operating behind the scenes, but that might have got changed last minute. But yeah, Tatiana Siegel put out another lovely hit piece in Variety, in the sense of putting out the idea of the supposed payday for Downey is going to be, supposedly Marvel's plucking down $80 million for the Russo brothers to come back, and RDJ is going to get paid way more, including supposedly, what is it, like a RV village and things like that. You know what? At this point, paydays are paydays. Unfortunately, fortunately, it's one of those things that with everyone else that works so hard on these movies at that point, to get a payday like that, it's somewhat, after all the strikes, saying, it just doesn't feel good seeing like that. But this is what they wanted to do, and RDJ is not necessarily wrong saying, you want me back? I want this payday. I want this, that, and the other, and I want the Russos back in order for me to do it. And guess what? Marvel did it. Call it desperation, but they had a story that they think they could do, and they got them back, and we're just gonna have to see exactly is it going to be worth it.
And it'd be interesting what came first. Like, was it the Russos or was Robert Downey Jr. coming back first? Like, which happened? What was it?
Yeah, that will be a fun discussion.
So, I mean, I think my assumption has been once they cemented the Russos as directing the two movies, then they're like, well, we got to bring back Robert somehow. Well, how are we gonna do it? How about Victor Von Doom? And then they can oh, Robert, you want to come back? Oh, I don't know. The Russos are going to direct. Oh, sure, I'm in. It could have been that simple.
I got a feeling that those three worked in concert a little bit here to get this deal signed, because I'm pretty sure it came out that Downey said he wasn't going to do it with anybody else other than the Russos. So,
according to Tatiana, if she's to be believed.
Oh, okay, never mind. If that's the source, then forget what I just said. That's a very suspect source to begin with.
That's why I wanted to say the source of the article.
You said hit piece immediately.
Well, I call her she is kind of very big on hit pieces on both sides of the aisle. So
she loves
in my humble opinion.
Well, and also as far as the Russos go, I remember listening to another podcast where the hosts were talking about if the Russos are coming back, like this is this is just going back to the well. This is, it's this is a movie of desperation, that kind of stuff.
$6.6 billion made for Marvel with the Russos alone.
Look,
I'm just gonna say that.
I mean, I don't know if you guys read the Reign of the MCU book that Joanna Robinson and a couple other writers put out.
I'm part of the way. I've not all the way through it, but yeah, I've read a lot of it.
She really does emphasize how like the Marvel really did find like the best collaborators, like what the most ideal kind of director that they were looking for. What they found in the Russos. The kind of director that's like super collaborative with them, and we'll talk to the other directors and writers that are all in the studio. So in order to put the best thing together, so it makes it's not like Marvel hasn't tried to work with a variety of other directors. It's not like they didn't try to find different directors for Avengers 5 and Secret Wars. They have tried to find other people. Just for one reason or another, it didn't work out, and hey, then you go back to the people who you can count on, who are clearly would be very excited to continue going too. Like they got to have a creative outlet with things like the Gray Man and Cherry, and I really liked the Gray Man. But they
I'm glad you did.
What's that?
I'm glad you did.
No, so I thought it was. I liked that.
It was okay. It was okay. It's one of those. I don't think they found their footing yet to find that same thing they found at Marvel. But I do appreciate their sticking to their guns and doing their creativeness at that point.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So, great. I appreciate you giving your voice to giving us our boots on the ground to tell us exactly your experiences. We're gonna head into some news. Are you gonna stick around, or are you gonna bow out?
I'll stick around for a few more minutes, and then I think I got to duck out.
Okay, so we're gonna take our next ad break before we get into the news. At that point, we're kind of gonna hit these news pieces pretty quick because Feige gave a lot of interviews, and there's not too much meat to chew on it, but just gonna get some quick reactions. So, all right, listeners, as you know, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they could be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, so Feige gave a lot of interviews last week leading up to Deadpool and Wolverine, dropped some tea. So we're going to do these kind of quick hits at that point, leading off with Nova. So Feige talking to Brendan Davis at comicbook.com and asking about, is Nova happening? Feige said, it's happening. It's coming together. Richard Rider is our Nova. He said, is it going to be a movie or a show? Brendan Davis has. Feige says, a show, yeah. As for the project, is slated to actually hit the small screen. There's still some time on that one. We're looking at 3 to 4 years out. So Nova definitely does not sound like a project within the Multiverse Saga. This sounds like one of the first projects outside the Multiverse Saga. And it's interesting that this is right now a Disney Plus show. So quick reactions. Travis, go first.
I watched the video of this interview. There's no way he's telling the information to anyone else other than Brandon Davis because he loves the Nova character. And I'm pretty sure he kind of dropped the hint that he'll maybe do a little stupid cameo of just a regular guy or something.
Yep.
So
I think so.
Yeah, that's I mean for this another thing down the pipe. They have so much in back catalog characters that we haven't even seen yet. So this is another one of those.
What do you think, Gary? Down for Nova as a show instead of a movie?
Honestly, it wouldn't matter to me that much either way. I really am not familiar with the character of Nova. I just am more excited about the idea that circling back to those pieces of like the Nova Corps that were introduced in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, kind of circling back to that side of the cosmic world of the MCU. So
yeah, we don't even know what their status is because all we know is Thanos wiped them out during Infinity War. So we have not seen a reestablishment. And you look at the Annihilation saga from the comics that wiped out the Nova Corps, and Richard Rider was the last of the Nova at that point. So we'll have to see exactly. But yeah, me personally, I do like the Richard Rider version of it. It's one of those where it's going to be interesting to see when you say it's going to be a show. Budget's always my interesting thing, and this is a cosmic hero. So I'm expecting big space opera, things like that, kind of, so that means budgets may be going up. So that's not necessarily, to do this right, I think you can do it, but I think it surprised me saying this was going to be a show, but we'll just have to see. Next up, Spider-Man 4 and MCU X-Men updates. So Feige was talking to Gizmodo, talked about an update on Spider-Man 4, saying our favorite Spider-Man 4 Sony producer, Travis, Amy Pascal, and I are working on it. Feige said about the next Spider-Man film, we have writers who are going to deliver us a draft relatively soon, so that's a positive. Talk about the next director for it, and in the sense of John Watts. And he says, John, we love John. We did 3 movies, 3 of the best Spider-Man movies he'd ever done with us. He's got lots of things going on now, so we'll probably be looking for someone else just because he's busy. Yes, he is doing. He's just getting ready to have a movie with George Clooney and Brad Pitt coming out. Just saw the trailer for that about a few months ago. He's also directing a few episodes of The Skeleton Crew. So he's relatively busy at that point. And what do y'all think? Small update on the writing, going to be turning in a script soon. Are you good with John Watts kind of saying you've done your time for King and Country? Let's find someone else to lead the next trilogy. How y'all feeling about that?
Completely fine with that, as long as you give me at least 2 to 3 Amy Pascal and Kevin Feige interviews together where they don't know what's going to be said going in, because Feige's reactions when Amy starts talking about things that they're going to do in the future is priceless. So yeah, I want more of that.
What about you, Carrie?
Yeah, I mean, the Spider-Man No Way Home is a heck of a high note to go out on. So I think for John Watts, I'm perfectly fine with him moving and venturing on to other things. And, I'm excited I'm hoping that, whether it's both not only Spider-Man 4, but hopefully more movies with Tom Holland. I just want to see the college years Peter Parker in the MCU and see that play out. And I mean, there's any number of great directors who could give us something special with that and just keep the torch going.
It was set up so perfectly at the end of No Way Home. Carrie, I agree with you. I want to see the college years as well, where he's all alone.
Yeah, it's going to be good, and I'm good with John Watts and finding someone else at that point. We've seen what he can do. Let's bring in a new person with a new vision at that point. But when we're talking about X-Men, they made this, asking Feige kind of indirectly about it. He said, well, that's a phrase we use often at Marvel, which is it's an embarrassment of riches, Feige said, when it comes to the X-Men. And there are a lot of great X-Men characters in Deadpool and Wolverine film. There are a lot of great X-Men characters in all of the Fox versions of the X-Men. And there are a lot of great X-Men characters that have never gone on to the big screen. So I think we will always try to do as we do when we made the arrangement with Sony for Spider-Man. You'll probably see a mix of characters you've seen before and some you've never seen ever on that point. I think the success of X-Men 97 was really exciting for us to see people revisit and reconnect with that world. And dare I say, the soap opera elements of that world, which is of the things that's so exciting, jumping into finally bringing them to the MCU. So that's positive in that sense for both of those. We've already seen the comments of the mutant era. We know Feige saying Deadpool and Wolverine starts the mutant era of X-Men, but I don't think we're going to. Everyone kept saying, "Oh, we're going to get more Avengers versus X-Men in this." No, we're not. That's not coming until after this multiverse saga is over. We need to first get an Avengers team established before we start having them fighting an X-Men that doesn't exist in the MCU. So, but. Couple of ones. Anyone surprised Feige saying there are no plans for Eternals 2? Anyone? Show of hands? Nope. Good. All right. So
I'm shocked.
we get our first revisiting of Eternals with Tiamat.
Let's be thankful for that. They're using the Celestial.
And Kevin likes to resurrect things that didn't work as well. I mean, maybe Eternals would have been better as a Disney Plus series.
Yep. I mean, I didn't hate on Eternals as much at that point. I think that movie is going to be more a sense of what, like to your point, Travis, what was done as a result. Brave New World is the first, revisiting of it. I think we're going to more see how effective it was if any of the characters do come back in any shape, form, or the rest of these phases. So, and last, and looking at the Feige news. Who bought Avengers Tower? This is another one coming from Brandon Davis, who has been harping on this, trying to see exactly when are we going to find out since Homecoming who bought Avengers Tower. And he asked them a couple of things. He asked to Feige. He said, speaking with comicbook.com ahead of the release of Deadpool Wolverine, Feige was asked if the answer to Avengers Tower question was the same as it has been previously, and when we might finally get that information. And Feige confirmed he knows who bought it, and it's the same answer as previously. Yes, we'll find out soon. He said yes. Feige said yes and yes. So the same person they had in mind that bought it is still the plan who bought it. We will find out, and we will find out soon. Doesn't say at that point, but we will find out soon. So my guess is probably sometime next year.
I think you could be right about that, Chris. The way I watched that interview, the way Feige was, I do think we'll see it in the next year.
Yep. So are you excited to see who finally, is it going to be what do you think, Harry? Is it going to be confirming fans' theory of possibly a Kingpin buying it, or is it going to be someone else? Is it going to meet are we building this up just to be let down? Did our speculation become our expectation, as my co-host Brent has said many times?
I mean, it could be that for sure. I think, the Kingpin buying it makes the most sense and would be sort of a way of, hey, we couldn't really say who it was until they got to a certain point with the Daredevil rights and franchise and things like that, and getting it all under the Marvel Studios roof and not just under Marvel Entertainment. So I imagine there's some...
I was going to just say that, Julio, but then I was
Julio's
thinking Norman Osborn.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Julio saying Val bought it. Yeah, you can't, again, Julio, you can't even say her name. You can barely think it,
So I'm excited for that mystery to be revealed, but I don't think it's going to be a massive plot point. I think it'll be just like, and then this person bought Stark Tower, or bought the Avengers Tower, and then we'll just kind of go on.
Yep. All right, our last story of the evening is looking at the historic box office of Deadpool and Wolverine. So much to the surprise of no one, it was number one at the box office the first weekend, made $444.1 million globally, including $211 million domestically, exceeding the adjusted expectations that put it around 165 million. It blew that away. This makes Deadpool and Wolverine the highest grossing global opening for an R-rated box office history, surpassing Deadpool in 2016. Domestically, it was the sixth highest grossing movie opening of all time, the highest July opening weekend of all time, surpassing 2019's The Lion King, the biggest opening since 2021's Spider-Man No Way Home, and the second largest opening for a third installment behind 2019's Avengers Endgame. As of recording, these are the current numbers as it stands right now. Domestically, it has earned $280 million in change. Internationally, $310 million for change, for a grand total, as of recording, of $590 million global take-in. It will not only exceed $600 million probably by the time of tomorrow morning, if not by end of Friday night, but it is well on its way. People are saying they will hit $1 billion sometime next week. So that is $2 billion movies for Disney in one summer. Inside Out 2.
Oh, okay.
Travis is giving me this look that, Inside Out 2.
That's not on my radar at the moment.
I saw Inside Out 2 and liked it, but I had a brain fart moment too.
That's fine. So I don't think any of those numbers surprise us at that point. I think it's again, I stuck to my guns with my predictions. I did not see him getting $1 billion, but I said I will be very happy to be proven wrong, and I will be very happy to get that one wrong, that they did not. They're going to achieve $1 billion. It's great. It's great news. But Thwip saying Craven's got competition at the box office. Oh yes, he does. Oh yes. All right. Well, I will sense that you gave us a little more extra time, Kara. I'm sensing this is where you will be probably stepping out.
I think I need to duck out at this point. Yeah, gotta go.
All right. Well,
tell people and some other things.
Well, tell people they can follow Carrie, and again, we really appreciate you taking your time and giving us your personal impressions. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, or X, whatever. I'm on Instagram, but I have those things kind of set to private for reasons. So I'll just say, if you want to find me, go ahead and reach out to Chris, and then he can use it.
I can say that you can follow him, and he's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly.
So, well, good. Well, we again appreciate you stopping by. Stay safe out there, and thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I look forward
Gary.
to listening to the rest of the episode later.
Awesome. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye. All right, we're going to take our last ad break before we get into Fact or Fiction and listener questions and kind of wrapping up our evening there, Travis.
Yeah.
What time is it there for you right now, buddy?
12:24.
Ah, yeah. So we got to wrap this up. Travis got to get to bed.
Oh, I'm
so.
fine. I'm fine. I have work tomorrow. Tomorrow's my day off.
I know, yeah, it's said, but we want to make sure you get that rest. So, all right, listeners, this is our final ad break for the evening. As you know the drill, ads get loud. You can turn the volume down. They help pay for this network. So we, enjoy the repeats of all the lovely ads that are in your region. So 3, 2, 1, we'll be right back. And we are back. All right, so let us, Brent put out the Spidey signal on Twitter. I put it out on Threads. So we got one question this week coming from.
Oh yeah, no. Sorry,
yeah.
The Factor Fiction.
Yeah, Factor Fiction. So we got one. Yeah, we'll get the Factor Fiction when we get to that. Amari Daniels, always consistent, always on there. One of our consistent contributors, asking, wishing Brent, hoping everything went well and goes well at that point, and we want him to come back. But him asking, what Marvel character did you look up to as a child and why? So I'm going to let you first take that there, Travis.
Well, Chris is wearing him right there. It's the Spider-Man, of course. And honestly, it's twofold. He always did the right thing. And most of the time when he did the right thing, it was detrimental to his life. It made his life harder. It made it crappier. And it was just something that I didn't see a whole lot of growing up in the other. This is animation where I first experienced these characters. So in the other ones, you didn't see as much how being a superhero affected their day-to-day lives. Somehow it was easier to be a hero. Like you could pull off both sides. Whereas Spider-Man, it always showed that it affected him. He missed out on dates, but he still always was Spider-Man. So yeah, Spider-Man was my guy. Always will be my guy, and just number one.
Yeah. Kind of thinking about that, like which one kind of did that for me. I mean, it's a good question. Marvel character. Spider-Man, yeah, I could say that, but one of those characters that, and hence, why I've taken the nickname the Man Without Fear is Matt Murdock. Daredevil. Someone that literally takes the idea, I know Steve Rogers, I can do this all day, like Matt has gone toe-to-toe and keeps on getting up, taking that fighter's mentality, never giving up, always getting, not always making the right move. I don't think he is definitely not a perfect character, not necessarily made the right choices, but his heart, when it comes down to it, is in the right place, trying to do what's right in his mind for his friends, for those around it, defending Hell's Kitchen, and doesn't want necessarily anything but to keep the kitchen safe. And that one has always been a personal favorite of mine. So
him being a hero in both sides of both identities is always something that I enjoyed as well, because not only does he take the cases, most of the cases he takes are pro bono. He doesn't exactly take high-end clients to make money. So he saves people choice.
But and in the sense of I'll take it another level, the X-Men. I mean, half my collection back here behind me, this has a whole just of everything they represent, the ideas of being different and knowing that, just because you're different doesn't mean that you deserve to be ostracized. You bring something to the table no matter what your abilities are.
Everyone's special.
Yep, exactly. All right, so thank you, Omari, for that question. And so let's get into Factor Fictions from a couple weeks ago. All right, we will see our first full cast in-person appearance in Fantastic Four at SDCC. 100% right. We made sure to get that out before SDCC. So yes, 100% right. I'm not even going to bother asking you, Travis, because we already know what happened. We will not get a Kang the Conqueror casting announcement at SDCC. 69% said fact, 31% fiction. Yep, got that one as well. Number 3. We will get a new logo for Armor Wars at SDCC. 72% said fact, 28% said fiction.
I said fiction on that one.
And Mr. Snell would say he did say you'll get it. He did put up a new logo for that and it said canceled because it's a fake movie.
Oh my god, I can't believe you guys went with that with him because we're never going to hear the end of that. The moment that gets
Nope.
canceled in a GUA chat, it's going to be like
Oh yeah,
that will be renamed, canceled.
Yeah, canceled Armor Wars at that point. And then finally, from Anthony saying Hugh Jackman will be the MCU canon Logan Wolverine and will not be recast. 40% said fact, 60% said fiction. What say you to that, since that's not one that?
I'm going to say fiction, unless he loves being tortured and wants to be Wolverine into 65s. I'm hoping that he eventually walks away from the character with a nice send-off here in these two final movies.
Yeah, so, all right. As the guest, it is up to you for Fact or Fictions this time. So what you got?
So I added a few new ones to the catalog after watching Deadpool and Wolverine. So some of these may be coming off the back of the information we got there. And the first one, of course, Tom Holland's Spider-Man will be the anchor being for Earth 616.
He is the anchor being. I'm going to go with false.
Okay.
Not fact. Not I'm going to go fiction on that one. I'm going to he's important, but I do not I think our anchor being for this one is someone else. I'm not ready. I have an idea. I'm not ready to talk about that one yet because I'm not fully 100%, but I'm leaning in a certain direction. Who that
Throw a guess. Throw a guess. We could timestamp this and you could be right.
Nope, not ready yet. Not ready to talk about it.
Number 2, Miles Teller will appear as Reed Richards again.
Miles will appear as Reed Richards.
I'm smarter with these now because there's not going to be just a definite timeline, so I could go back in 3 years and be like, I told you that one was right. I think he could be on the council that we eventually see that maybe helps us solve this whole Doom problem.
I don't think we'll see that Reed. I don't think we're seeing Miles Teller, so I'm going to go fiction on that one. I think we'd sooner see our original Reed Richards from.
I thought we were going to get 90s. Both of them, so yeah. Also, seeing Gambit really made me think anything's possible.
Yeah, so
Galactus will have no variants, just like American Chavez.
Galactus will have no variants.
He's just going to be one being.
Yeah, I'm 3 for 3 this week. I'm saying fiction just because I think he is a Celestial in a way, and he's an offshoot of the Celestials. So I think that there is a Galactus in 616. Just we haven't seen him yet.
Okay, and the final one, I put an extra one in there.
Oh, okay.
Jessica Alba will return as Sue Storm.
I say that's a fact. That's a fact for me. The heart wants it, and I think it's going to happen.
I love how Carrie referred to Fantastic Four. The first person he said was Jessica Alba, and we went on from there. That's anyone I ever hear mentions that. That's the first cast member.
Well, Flip's saying I think Anchor being is strange. I'll reveal. That's who I'm leaning towards. Actually, that's the one I'm leaning towards. So you put it out there, but yeah, that's the one I'm leaning towards. Not there yet. I have 1 or 2 other contenders right now, but Strange is someone I have a 51% that is our anchor being.
Does Spider-Man even make the top 5 choices for you? Oh god dang. God dang, I should have just consulted with you before making that decision.
Nope, not there yet. So
pretty definitive with that one. But,
yep, okay. I'm very definitive on that one. So watch me be wrong. That's fine. So Anthony did send in a fact or fiction. He said, similar to Spider-Man the Home Trilogy, the Fantastic Four trilogy will be the Steps trilogy, with the first movie being First Steps, sequels being Next Steps, and Final Steps. No.
I hope so.
I don't want that. I know you probably said that as I have to ask you. You can message me after saying, how serious are you? Are you trolling us at this point? Because I can already hear when Travis is listening to this. After that point, he's going to say, "Oh, please, dear God, no," and I'm the same way. Please, dear God, no.
I want it to be now just because of that. I can only imagine every news thing. It'll be similar to Ray and Brent doing the Birds of Prey and making do the whole.
I'd rather do that than that. No, that just sounds like a baby walking at that point.
Yeah, I agree with you. That does not sound appealing.
Yep. So, and we said before, there's nothing says they can't do a title change either.
Oh yeah, it's not.
Not because they footage, but they'd always do. They've done it before. They did it literally at a Comic-Con panel. So not saying that wasn't always part of the plan, but we'll see. But yeah, thank you, Anthony, and we will also post all 5 of the Factor Fictions this week. Let's see, this Thwip's being cheeky. They followed the home trend with Spider-Man, so why not the same with that? Stop it, Thwip. No, we're not creating Inception and willing this into existence. Stop it. Watch Brent be on the trend of this. Oh, I'm gonna have to ask him this. Well, I'll find out tomorrow morning after he listens to this and sees if he's on that kind of train too. And I'll say I'm surrounded except for others on this one. So, but all right, well, we will post those on Sunday afternoon. So let your voices be heard. And well, this was a very long episode at that point, a good episode. And again, want to thank first Carrie for coming on and sharing his experiences in Hall H, and obviously Travis stepping in last minute for Brent. I know he sends his thanks, and as always, I send you thanks in the late night, and I'm glad you do have a day off tomorrow so you can get a little bit of extra sleep, because I know you and probably going to get an early call from Oliver.
Oh, 100%, but totally worth it. Thank you, Brent, for asking me to fill in on an episode with content.
Yes, you have had a bad history on this show where we have been very light on content. So this is. I mean, big
events happen the following week, like bring me out for She-Hulk episode 4, episode 5, Daredevil. What?
Yep.
No. So yeah.
Well, again, tell people how they can follow you and plug your shows on the network.
You can follow me on Twitter at Travis_156. You can drop me a line. We can chat about pretty much anything. There's not much I don't love. I also host 2 podcasts on the network, The Animation Nation, where we take a look at animation across a multitude of fandoms. I put out yesterday, or like 2 days ago, Wednesday. That was yesterday. Wednesday, I put out a review for Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3. That was nice to wrap that up. I will recommend not listening to my podcast and not watching the 3-part animated trilogy there. Hate saying that. And also host DC Alliance, co-host DC Alliance on the podcast network as well. Friday nights live on the Geekverse YouTube channel.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And you can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balga. You can follow my other podcast, World's Finest True Believers, at Finest Believers. Dropped a new episode with Omar from Near Mint Condition looking at Green Lantern Rebirth. Just dropped that on Sunday, so check that out. That is episode 98. The penultimate episode of getting to episode 100 is coming, and the question is, who is the guest? That episode has been recorded and is ready to drop at the end of this month, so stay tuned.
That is a good question, too, with you, because you've had such a wide variety of guests, from actual comic creators to big dum-dums like myself, so who knows who it could be.
and again, what is going to happen with episode 100? Interesting, let it out there at that point. So, but you can follow Brent at Brent Tech Prime on all the socials. You can email the show at Marvel Alliance podcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask questions, Factor Fictions. All DMs are open. Continue to rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. We want to thank you. There's a great lively chat tonight, everyone, for joining us. Thank you all for joining us live. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, Travis, post-credits discussion. This is something that we've kind of talked about on the show, is Rumorville. Well, this is an interesting one that Feige came on and went on the record for something that, has kind of gone under the radar. So I kind of wanted to bring it up as our post-credits discussion, saying Kevin Feige reveals why Vision showrunner was chosen. So we get a twofer in this one. Not only that the Vision series is happening, but that the showrunner for this was also confirmed. So,
and I'm sure you hated this when we find out what this showrunner did before, because I remember you did quite enjoy this. So
yes, so Kevin Feige talking to comicbook.com, saying that, speaking to Inverse at this point, but this is comicbook.com's covering it. So speaking to Inverse, the MCU architect explained why Terry Matalas was really the only person to come on board to bring back Paul Bettany's hero. Feige saw Star Trek Picard and was floored by the level of the show was operating on. And Paramount Plus saw one of their biggest wins with Picard, the MCU headman noted, is a Star Trek. He is a Trekkie. And when it comes to the character study that pushes into the future and recontextualizes the past, there aren't many shows like Picard. For Vision, his absence has been felt since the finale of WandaVision. Hopefully, the show provides an update. Feige says, that's how I got to know him. It was an amazing work. He is the main showrunner for Picard season 3. I said, this is incredible. I don't know how this exists. Let me find out who this person is. This moment is also significant because it's the first time that Marvel Studios itself has acknowledged the series and that the showrunner for this is Terry Matalas at that point. So the Vision Whites, no Vision series, whatever we want to call it at that point, is for real. Terry Matalas is confirmed as the showrunner for this. When I first heard the rumors of this, I said, yes, absolutely. Picard, the series as a whole was outstanding, but season 3, if you are a Trekkie, a next generation Trekkie, season 3 was a love letter to all of us, and I cannot believe how well they stuck the landing for this. So Terry Matalas, even before Picard season 3, he is a great showrunner, many accolades to his name, and I am so excited about this. I know you're not necessarily a Trekkie in that point, Travis, but necessarily maybe not Matalas, but the idea of the Vision series being confirmed. What are your feelings about that?
This is just showing again why Kevin Feige is cooking. He immediately knew from watching Picard season 3, being like, okay, yeah, this is the guy that needs to do this just because of this. So as with everything else, Kevin Feige has my ultimate trust. He's earned that with everything he's done. So I just think it's great. And imagine being that guy, and Kevin Feige's like, we got to have him. Like, I love what he did with here. You're like, dude, you almost got as much bargaining power as like Tobey Maguire and those other people now that Robert Downey Jr. is locked in. Marvel better have already had those guys locked in, or they will be dishing out more dollars. So, yeah, I can't wait for this show, to be honest with you, Chris. This is something that I was afraid might get lost in the shuffle in the post Endgame world. But yeah, especially with Scarlet Witch looks like on the shelf for a little while now.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we may get that. We've heard rumors that this is the show that's also going to lean heavily into the Tom King run. Another Tom King project at that point, maybe a mix of that. But yeah, I'm excited for the idea of this. Like I said, Terry Matalas bringing it on brings it a whole level of excitement and the expectations for this. So when this show will come about, I don't know. We've got D23, so the rumors of D23 being mainly focused on animation and the Disney streaming side of Marvel looks to be true. Will we get a more of a discussion of this D23? We'll have to see. That's in a couple of weeks as we begin that march on Marvel Alliance towards that. Thank you all, ladies and Travis, you got
one other thing?
A thought?
Because when he said Nova, the Nova interview, just coming back to that, Nova doesn't have a director, like a person in charge running it or anything right now. So I do think that this is going to come in the next couple of years, that they're going to start filming on this. So
and
quicker
Paul,
than later.
Yeah, and Paul Bettany did confirm to a certain member of our show, Brent, that he was planning to come back at that point. So that's too exclusive of Mr. Brentech Prime. So, all right, all. Thank you all for joining us for this long episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, thank you, Carrie. Thank you, everyone. We will see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.